Most people assume that living alone after 60 or 70 had the disadvantage of slow slide into isolation, decline, and shrinking opportunities. But what if that assumption is not only outdated, but completely wrong? What if a surprising set of benefits, backed by decades of data and real-life stories, emerges precisely when an older man begins living on his own? And what if the shift towards solo living in America wasn't a cultural accident, but the result of forces set in motion long before today's seniors were even born? Tonight, we uncover the unexpected truth: why more older men are living alone than at any point in American history, and why many of them say they are becoming healthier, sharper, and more independent because of it. But before we explore those hidden advantages, we must untangle the mystery of asterisk, how we got here asterisk, and why living alone in later life changed from a feared outcome to a growing trend. To understand the benefits, we have to start with the story. At the start of the 20th century, living alone was rare in the United States. Multi-generational households were the norm. Adult children stayed close. Older parents often moved in with family members when work became difficult. Loneliness was not a major topic because community life was intertwined. Neighbors talked, families depended on one another, and society was built around local support. But a powerful chain of events began shifting this landscape. Industrialization pulled people into cities. Economic independence grew. The G-Bill created a generation of homeowners who preferred not to rely on extended family. And rising life expectancy meant people lived longer, often outliving spouses or moving through multiple phases of adulthood. These changes quietly planted the seeds for the solo living revolution among older adults. And if you want to explore those seeds, subscribe now. By the 1950s and 60s, the rise of Social Security, private pensions, and employer-sponsored benefits created an unprecedented level of financial autonomy. Older men who once depended on family now had their own guaranteed income. This independence reshaped expectations around aging. The idea that a man must live with adult children began to fade. But there was an unexpected twist. While financial independence grew, emotional independence lagged behind. Many older men never learned the social habits, domestic skills, or self-care routines necessary to thrive alone. For many, solo living became connected to silence, not empowerment. Then came the breaking point. In the 1980s and 90s, traditional family structures experienced major cultural shifts. Divorce rates rose. Children moved farther away for work. Careers became mobile rather than local. By the time men reached their 60s or 70s, they often found themselves living alone unexpectedly, whether because of divorce, widowhood, or choice. This shift created fallout that researchers began noticing. Older men living solo were initially more vulnerable to health declines, social withdrawal, and shorter lifespan. Public health experts warned that living alone was dangerous for older adults. Yet, beneath these statistics, something interesting was happening, something that challenged the narrative entirely. A new generation of older men began embracing independence rather than resisting it. Instead of viewing solo living as a sign of loss, they saw it as an opportunity. And this is where the story takes a turn. The very conditions that once made living alone risky started producing surprising benefits. Not overnight, but gradually, in a cause and effect sequence that few experts predicted. Men who lived alone found themselves learning new skills: cooking, cleaning, home maintenance, budgeting, and time management. Studies soon discovered that these men developed stronger cognitive function compared to peers who outsourced all domestic tasks to partners or caregivers. The daily decision-making, the problem-solving required to run a household acted like mental exercise. Next came physical health. Older men living solo walked more, moved more, and engaged in more household activity simply because they had to. They weren't relying on partners to shop, cook, or manage errands. The added motion reduced stiffness, improved cardiovascular health, and kept muscles active. Then came emotional changes. The autonomy of controlling one's environment, quiet when desired, routine when needed. Hobbies without judgment reduce stress for many older men. They rediscovered personal interests they had abandoned decades earlier. Some took up gardening, woodworking, chess, photography, or writing. Others reconnected with old friends, joined clubs, or traveled for the first time in years. But the biggest surprise, social engagement increased for many. Without the default company of a spouse, older men proactively formed new friendships. They joined senior centers, pickleball courts, volunteer groups, and local meetups. And because these interactions were chosen, not obligatory, they often resulted in deeper, more meaningful connections. It is here that researchers realized the earlier warnings about living alone overlooked the most important factor: mindset. Men who view solo living as an opportunity rather than a consequence thrive. They age better, engage more, and experience greater cognitive resilience. The irony is that many of these benefits were discovered only after decades of failed fixes. Efforts to push older adults into enforced social environments, mandatory check-ins, or standardized living arrangements rarely produce lasting improvement. The flaw was simple: independence, not supervision, was what drove longevity and well-being. Now, in modern America, the patterns of the past are repeating with new intensity. Today, more than 30% of men over 60 live alone, a number rising steadily each year. And while some struggle, many report improved quality of life. The data is surprising. Older men living alone are more likely to stay physically active, they report higher levels of personal growth, they demonstrate stronger executive function to daily problem solving, and they're more likely to engage in community activities than married men of the same age. Another striking pattern: men who learn to manage solo living early, whether after a divorce in their 50s or after widowhood in their 60s, tend to live longer and healthier lives than men who become fully dependent on a partner for daily functioning. The story of older men living alone in America is not a story of decline, it is a story of rediscovery. Before we close, here are 3 essential takeaways older men consistently share. First, self-sufficiency builds confidence. Learning to manage your own home, schedule, and needs becomes a source of pride and mental strength. Second, independence creates opportunity. Solo living gives men the freedom to rebuild routines, pursue interests, and reconnect with life on their own terms. Third, community matters, but it must be chosen. When older men initiate friendships, they form stronger bonds than those created by circumstance. But there is a final warning: living alone can either strengthen you or isolate you. It depends entirely on whether you approach it intentionally. Independence is a tool, but like any tool, it must be used wisely. So here is the open-ended question: if living alone at 60 or 70 can unlock a second life, how will you shape yours? If you found this story thought-provoking, subscribe for more deep-dive narratives like this, because understanding the past is the first step toward shaping your future.